What if I told you the biggest reset in US financial history could happen almost overnight and most people wouldn't even see it coming? So, for decades now, gold has been dismissed as an outdated relic. It was something that your grandparents talked about, but modern economists simply roll their eyes at. Yet here we are in 2025, staring down the barrel of a debt crisis so massive that Washington may have no choice but to quietly dust off the oldest trick in the book, and that's revaluing gold. Now, before you think that sounds like some wild gold bug fantasy, consider this. America's national debt just cost $37 trillion, dollars, and the interest payments alone are about to eclipse what we spend on national defense. Foreign governments at once eagerly bought our treasuries, countries like China, Japan, and even our European allies, well, they're all scaling back. The BRICS bloc is openly creating alternatives to the dollar. The Fed and the Treasury are boxed into a corner with very few options left. Raising taxes, well, that would risk political suicide. Cutting spending, well, that's nearly impossible given how much of it is locked into entitlements. So that leaves one lever, a lever that has been pulled before in a time of crisis. And that lever, my friends, is gold. Now, this isn't speculation, it's about history repeating itself. Remember, in 1933, FDR did it. In the 70s, Nixon effectively did it by severing the gold dollar link. And the chatter now is growing much louder. See, the Federal Reserve and the US Treasury may revalue gold not as an investment strategy, but as a desperate move to cover their own books. And if that happens, trust me, it will hit every single one of us, whether you own gold or not. Now, just so you understand, the debt to GDP ratio at 120% is no longer sustainable. The Congressional Budget Office warns it's on track to explode to 150% within a decade. But most analysts know we're going to hit that level a lot sooner. Now, unlike in World War II, this isn't temporary war spending, it's structural, and it's tied to entitlement programs, rising interest rates, and promises the government simply can't unwind. Now, at the same time, foreign demand for our treasuries has dried up. China has reduced its holdings. Japan, well, they're scaling back. Even US banks are overloaded with bonds. So if the government can't sell its debt, the system will eventually crack. And historically, gold has always been the emergency parachute. So officially, US gold is now valued at $42.22 an ounce. At that valuation, our reserves are worth a little more than $11 billion. Now, in reality, at today's market price, the reserves are worth over $600 billion. Simply updating the official price to match reality, well, that would multiply Treasury's balance sheet overnight. And if Washington sets a higher official peg, say $5,000 or even $10,000 an ounce, well, the reserves could suddenly be worth trillions of dollars. That's the hidden tool. No mining, no selling, just a reevaluation, and the numbers, well, they change instantly. Basically, it's accounting wizardry that makes the government balance sheet look healthier while leaving ordinary savers like you and I holding weaker dollars. Now, here's where it gets very personal. A gold reevaluation doesn't just affect government ledgers, it also directly impacts your wallet. So if you're sitting on cash, the purchasing power of that cash drops because the dollar is being quietly devalued. If you're holding gold, on the other hand, well, as you guessed, your wealth will skyrocket instantly. And here's the political side. Trump has hinted multiple times at restoring gold's role in the system, while Treasury reports use careful language about monetizing assets. Now, if you add in the growing global pressure from BRICS and the whispers out of Washington, well, they aren't so far-fetched. So, my financial warriors, just before we take an even deeper dive, it's imperative you hit that like button and subscribe so that you get notified the minute that we produce another game-changing video that helps your financial situation. I promise it'll help and you will appreciate it. So buckle up and let's take a deeper plunge. So while we're talking about gold revaluation, think about the ripple effects. See, if gold is revalued upwards, every financial asset tied to the dollar is repriced in real time. And that means bonds lose purchasing power, which crushes pension funds and retirement accounts that rely on safe treasuries. So the average worker with a 401k could very well see diminished returns, even if the account balance looks the same on paper. Meanwhile, commodities like oil, food, and raw materials, all priced globally, well, they would have to adjust to reflect the weaker dollar. That also means higher prices at the pump, more expensive groceries, and increased costs across the board. Inflation could surge, not because of supply shocks this time, but because of deliberate monetary policy choices. Now, as you guessed, the wealthy, as always, are better positioned. Many already hedge with gold, silver, land, or other hard assets. But the middle class, the group with the most to lose, well, they often hold their wealth in cash, bank accounts, or dollar denominated retirement plans. Now, a gold revaluation flips the advantage away from them and towards those holding real scarce assets. Now, let's not forget geopolitics either. See, if the US revalues gold, it implicitly acknowledges that the dollar's supremacy is shaky. That sends a signal to the world: hedge against US debt. So nations holding gold reserves like Russia, China, India, well, they would see their wealth skyrocket too, giving BRICS even more leverage. Now, it's not just a domestic move, it's a global one with massive consequences. So, my friends, the writing is on the wall. The debt spiral is accelerating, the dollar's dominance is weakening, and gold, the very thing dismissed as irrelevant, well, it's now back in the conversation at the highest levels of government. Now, by the time Washington makes the move, it'll already be too late to adjust. And the winners will be those who prepared early, while the losers will be the ones who thought it could never happen to them. So, in the meantime, have a wonderful day. Think about what I've just said, and I'll see you guys on the next one.